those that are poor and desolate. He's going to keep them under his thumb as to bolster his power and prestige.
Mm-hmm.
People are mourning. And we see this in countries where people mourn because of the leadership, and we see very few anymore countries that rejoice because of righteous leadership. It's usually the opposite that we're seeing today. And God forbid that we as human beings that really have true and correct ideas about a Creator, that we're not speaking out about these injustices, especially when people can't do it for themselves. We should be the ones on the front line. And so that's what the issue is about. I'm not going to change God. He's not going to sit up there and say, "Attaboy, Jack, you've been really up there doing really good, and I'm really proud of you," right? No. But that investing of ourselves, it gives us a sense of pride. And I'm not talking about being haughty or boasting, but I'm talking about a sense of pride about, I've done the right thing. I know I've done the right thing.
But because God wants us to do it.
And because God wants us to do it.
That's how He
Exactly.
Outlined it for us.
Exactly. That's because God wants us to do it, and now I'm doing it because, okay, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Why? Because God gave us a revelation, and that revelation was delivered to humanity, that this is the right way to live as a true Adam, as a true human being. Yeah. And that's what we should be striving to be, is true human beings. Not living for ourselves, not living selfishly, but living a righteous life that affects ourselves, and that spreads out and affects other people around us. And that's what it's all about. It's almost like, when God gave the commandments to Israel later on in Deuteronomy chapter 40, He says, when the nations come to know these wise commandments, and these hooks, this hukim, which are really commandments that don't have any logic or rational to them, they will say about Israel, what a wise and understanding people that have a God so nigh to them, right? And what's happening today? It's not. The question is, why isn't it happening? I mean, that's a real question, a real issue. But the truth of the Torah, if people grasp it, the real realization of the truth of the Torah, it's about us as human beings. And God gave the Torah to us as human beings to live our lives by, that would not only affect us in a righteous and holy way, but that effect would filter out to people around us, and they would come and say, "What do you live that lifestyle for?" Sometimes people ask me well, why don't you don't seem to get upset about very much. And I said, I learned this Hebrew term a long time ago. An old friend of mine taught it to me. He says, Gam Zeh Tov. And Gam Zeh Tov means, basically, roughly translated, but the only way you can translate it, right? Tov, of course, means good, right? It's all for the good. So what we may deem as a bad thing happening to us at that moment, no, may not be. May be for the good. So eventually, everything is for the good. We don't know at that moment what is the good and what is not sometimes. And when we can have something happen to us and we say, well, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life, and 3 days later, or maybe a few hours later,
that's probably one of the best things that ever happened.
probably one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
Yeah.
So, but eventually everything is for the good, right? I mean, that's the way it is. Gam Zeh Tov. Everything eventually is for the good. And we just have to get our minds set on the fact that that's the way it is. And that's the way it will be, by the way. And so when things happen to us sometimes that might get under our skin and make us a little bit angry, questioning, why did you allow that to happen to me? It's all for the good. It's for your good. Right? Okay? So that's the whole point. It's about for the goodness of humanity. And we need to carry that goodness out. And the only way we can do that is when we have very correct and clear concepts of our Creator. And we get those down, then we can actually launch out to the people around us. Yeah. Make ourselves better.
Yeah.
And the people around us, by the way.
Well, there you have it. We cannot affect God. Everything is...
Although we would like to think that we can.
Right. You know, the truth is the truth, and we got to come to grips with it. You know, we do what we call service to God, or serving God. One, because we know that He wants us to live this way.
Yes.
And two, because this is what's right for humanity.
The best way for us.
And it would be really nice to see everybody jumping on board. You know, man, we could argue theology all we want to. We could argue against anything we wanted to. We can try to preach to the world this is the right way or whatever. But you know what? The best way to know if what you live is truly good and has true substance is to put it into action. And this is why I think is very different between, I would say, other religions and what we find in
a religion of belief as opposed to practice.
Right, right. Well, you know, the difference between what we accept as Torah, God, revelation, versus, you know, what has come after that.
Right.
Because, you know, the main focus in let's say the two prominent religions of today, outside of what we would call Judaism, would be two religions that their main goal is to convert everybody.
Right.
You know, because one feels that, you know, you're needing salvation.
Right.
The other one feels, you know, that you just need to stop being an infidel. You know, the main issue, however, is their practice.
Right.
How does it really affect the world? Now, when you sit down and you look at what the Torah says, and this is one of the examples of that you find when you see Israel living life within Torah, is that there's harmony in that society. And to me, that's really the main difference, is that if you were to apply, you know, what God's prescription is to life, you will find that the world would be a better place, and it's not this issue of who's saved today, who's not an infidel tomorrow. You know, it's not about that. You know, it's not about, you know, how big a mass you've got now, you know, from converts. That has nothing to do with it. Everything has to do with getting back to the knowledge of God. So plugging that is the knowledge of the Lord, and my Keep the Seven, Go to Heaven YouTube channel. Feel free to Google it. And I did a video about that. I started a video about that. And I hope to add more to it. And that's really the message. The message is that we need to get back to that. And all you got to do is read the prophets. The prophets will tell you, you know, it's about getting to know the Lord. How do you get to know the Lord? So go look for that. Thank you for being with us. I hope you learned something. I know that I learn something every day, even from the most minuscule thing. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and hope you'll join us again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.